trust and believe. I'm with I'm with those shits, right? Truth be told, I don't think I would have gotten married if it wasn't for my ex-husband really wanting a wedding. I would have gone to the justices of the peace and done that shit and thrown a party, or I would have lived with him in quote sin for as long as we can both tolerate each other. Those would have been our vows. Fact, my vows on my wedding day were lines from the movie, no, fuck it, I'm not gonna tell y'all what the movie is. I'm not gonna do it, because then y'all gonna laugh at me. And not laugh with me, but laugh at me. You see the difference? The intent would have been to hurt me intentionally by laughing at my choices, my life choices. But yeah, my wedding vows were from a movie, and even still in that movie, the lines were like, we're gonna hate each other, right? But I'm with it. I'm with the whole I'm not for those shits. Take the shackles off my fingers so I can dance because I want to praise me. I'm all for women being pro-choice, and I really would like pro-lifers to understand that pro-choice includes and encompasses pro-life, because if you're pro-choice, then you're pro having the choice to decide when life begins, if it's at conception or at birth. And so pro-lifers are conception and the non-pro-lifers are at birth. And so if I choose that I am pro-choice, that life begins after popping this baby out my vag, then if I don't want life, then I can go ahead and terminate this pregnancy ahead of time. So I would really like that to happen. But I'm all about a woman's rights, a woman's having the right to her reproductive rights, a woman having a right to her body and the changes being made to her body, because all of that shit right now is being decided upon by old conservative white men in the White House, Senate, or House of Representatives, whatever it is. I don't understand all that politics shit no more. But I'm also a ladyist with enough sense to understand that while the feminist agenda is rooted in fairness, if it's going to be rooted in fairness, then we as a community need to understand that fair is fair. Fair is not a one-sided thing, right? If you have 50, then that side has to have 50 as well. You can't have 60 and they have 40 and say it's fair. Then that's when the power dynamics and the power struggle begins, because the person who has more has the power. Right? So if we're looking for fairness, then we have to accept fairness for what it is and be fair in all of our actions. And I say that to say that in the podcast where I spoke about feminism and my ambivalence, I guess, to the traditional feminism as it is that when it comes to cases like sexual assault or cases where accusations are being thrown against, that I want to be fair, right? Because I want to know the culpability of the action, right? Traditionally and historically, yes, men have gotten away with sexual assault and the abusing of their power over women, right? Traditionally, men, because they have the power, they are the quote heads of the household, they are the men, they are the leaders. If a woman did not want to be preyed upon, she didn't have that choice. A man would prey on her and they would say, well, fuck it, you're a woman, so you just gotta lay on your back and just take it. And women had no voice. It was suppressed. It was removed. And so, generationally, that mentality was passed down, so much so that we have women who are growing up knowing or feeling that they are always going to be fearful in situations like that and can never speak up and speak their truth about being attacked. Women, ladies, I am with you. I understand that. I 100% am against that patriarchal bullshit. But at the same time, let's not act like there aren't situations where it's the inverse, and women have used their prowess to accuse men of things that they didn't do for financial gain. Right? Fair is fair. Right? Let's not also think of the fact that we lean into the weaker sex dynamics sometimes, so much so that we cannot allow men to lean into, that we force men to lean into the masculine, the masculinity and the machismo, even when they're not. And I say that to say that we leaning to the quote weaker sex thing, which allows us to allows for us to be quote emotional, right? To bring on the tears, to show our emotions, to be able to say no when we mean yes and yes when we mean no, and change our minds 100 times, even when it comes down to what kind of food we want to eat. But if a man does that, then we call him quote weak, right? And fair is fair. You know, we lean into the weakness, but then tell our boys that they shouldn't cry. Right? Men shouldn't cry. Boys shouldn't cry. Men shouldn't cry. Be a man. Right? We lean into that weakness and then turn around and say, we want a strong man. We want him to, we want a man to do this and to do that and to show his manliness. We lean into that. But at the same time, we want equality. That's where my ambivalence lies, right? We want the equality. We want to be treated fairly. We want to be equal to our male counterparts. But then we want to pick and choose when we can express the typical things of the quote weaker sex, right? That benefit us. And then say, well, as a feminist, I have the right to do that. Come on. You want to let your man know, listen, I don't need you. I'm independent. I could get my own money. I could have my own. I could buy my own car, pay my own house note. I don't need you. But then go to dinner, and if he doesn't pick up the check, he mad cheap. He ain't a real man. A real man would have paid for my meal. A real man would have pulled open the chair for me. A real man would have opened the door for me. So you want chivalry and you want equality, which means you really don't want equality. You want to be treated better than a man. Say that. Say, I don't want it to be 50-50. I'm tired of it being him 60 and me 40, or him 75 and me 25. I want it to be me 60 and him 40. Because you want all the things that come with being an independent, strong, leading female force. But you still want to be treated traditionally like a lady, like a woman. You still want that traditional ladylike treatment. And I think that's why I say I'm a ladyist, because I almost feel like, actually, no. A ladyist is just straight fair. So yeah, I would say I'm a ladyist because I want fairness. You can ask my ex-husband, who have been exceptionally fair to. And when we were dating, if we went to Target to pick up some shit for both he and I was adamant about either paying only for my things and then pay for his things, or if he wanted to throw everything together, paying for half. Or sometimes I would pick up the whole bill. If he paid for dinner one night, I pay for dinner the next. I'm not going to expect him to keep buying us dinner. It actually used to be a thing when we would go out to eat, that like, who would grab the check first. Or, babe, do you want me to go in half with you? Because that was me showing I'm really about us being equals. You know, every time we go somewhere, I'm not phased if he doesn't open the door for me. Why? Because I have two hands. I can open the door for my damn self. Yes, it's gentlemanly of him to open the door. But he can still be a gentleman without doing those things too. See what I'm saying? I don't know. I really went down a rabbit hole with that one. But to bring it back to like the sexual assault thing, which I did speak about in the last podcast, I was just saying that, like, you know, people got to be culpable. And I feel like if you want to be fair, then fair is fair. And when it comes to things like that, fair is fair, especially when it comes to culpability. Because there are women out here who will lie in order to get ahead. I feel like I have to look at what's being gained, what's at stake. You know, there are women who are out here, like, you know, filing these claims because they want their voice heard and they want to see their aggressor and their predator come to justice or you know, go to come to justice. But then there are other women who are like, well, I'm gonna make this claim and see how much I can get and settle out of court. If it's gonna go too far, if I don't see I'm gonna win, let me just settle out of court, take this money and dip. Also, let's act like there are women out here who don't prey on men. I always say Black China. As much as she like to say she didn't prey on Rob Kardashian. Yeah, you did. Because at the end of the day, you took this man money, got a shit ton, you had a baby and it had a whole bunch of plastic surgery right after you popped a child out your cooch. And then when you guys broke up, you're flashing and flossing with some young guy on your Snapchat and shit, buying shit that the young man says your man paid for. And then there's text messages between her and her agents about, you know, copywriting her last name to be Kardashian too. And, you know, how she was only really with him to do the show so that she can make money. And she basically had a child for fame. Because let's face it, you out here with this guy who, you know, for however many months you're trying to, quote, bring him out of, you know, his being a hermit and him being sad and depressed and gaining all this weight. You're doing all of this great stuff to help him be your better him. And instead of helping him become physically and mentally and spiritually better, you want to put a baby on him when his mind ain't right, his spiritual ain't right, his health ain't right. Let's drop a baby on top of it. Let's stop. Okay? And that's what I'm saying. Shit like that happens. And of course, you know, we don't think about that being the thing that happens often to men, because of course it doesn't happen often enough to men to talk about it. But that doesn't mean that we should not talk about it and that it's not a reality. And that's where I guess my ladyism agenda comes in, because I look at that shit across the board, you know. And like I said, people out here talking about, oh, you know, I'm a feminist, I'm a real woman, but you out here slapping another woman in the face to cut a check from VH1. You know, if a man did that shit to you, oh, he's a horrible person, but you can beat another woman up and it's cool. And then, of course, you know, well, men are bigger and stronger and all this other stuff. There are men out there who are not bigger and stronger. There are women out there who are with smaller built men who beat them and who mentally abuse them and tell them that they're never going to be anything and they're nothing without them. What do we not think that when us as women say things like that to men, like, you're nothing without me, you would never be shit without me, you're not a real man, that's not phasing them in some way? Do we not believe that? And I'm asking that genuinely, not like to be facetious. Like, do we genuinely feel like that's not phasing them in some way? Because last time I checked, I know dudes who one woman can break up with them and break them for the rest of their fucking life, and they will never treat another woman good in their life because one woman did something to them, which shows their level of sensitivity, that they can be broken as easily as we can, and that we as women are even more resilient in that, right? Because we